Hi friends, it's Linda here, and this week we're learning how to build a fire. Now you need a few things to do that, but the first thing you should do is figure out where you're going to build your fire, because many times you can't just build a fire in your backyard. You can't just build a fire anywhere you want to, because it's against the law to do that. Many times you need to have a fire permit first in order to build a fire. So make sure you have a spot where you're actually allowed to build a fire. Next thing, you need to have wood, and the best kind of wood is dry wood. Now how do you know that wood is dry? Well, if you're taking branches from the ground and you pick a piece of wood up and it feels dry, you know it's dry, which is important. If it's wet, you're not going to use it. But what we're really talking about is if you have to go up to a tree and break some branches off the tree to use that as your firewood, you have to determine whether that is wet wood or dry wood. So if you go up to a deciduous tree, in the wintertime especially, the branches look dead, the trees look dead because there are no leaves on them. But if you go to break a branch off and it bends and twists, that's because it's still alive and it's green inside. It's wet, and that's not what you want for burning firewood, okay? It's not good for the tree either because you're going to hurt the tree, but it's not going to burn well for you, so you don't want that. Some of the coniferous trees, so cedar trees and pine trees, even although they're alive, the bottom branches tend to die off. And you can tell that they're dead because although the tree is alive, it has green needles, there are branches that don't have any needles on them. And if you go to break a branch off, it should make a sound. If it makes a nice snapping sound, you know that it's dry wood and you can use it. So this is an example of a living pine tree, and you can see those green needles at the top. But when you look at the bottom, see there's no green needles there. And there's also a cedar tree without any green needles. That's what you would want. So the next thing that we need is something just to get your fire started, and we call that tinder. And if you have newspaper, that would work, but the problem with paper is that if it's raining, it's going to act like a sponge and absorb all that moisture, and then it won't light for you. This is not everyday ordinary bark. This is birch bark, and birch bark is probably the #1 choice for tinder, and it's because birch bark actually has an oil base to it, so it is very flammable even if it's wet. So that's a great thing. The other thing is I didn't take this off of a living birch tree because that would kill the tree. You never want to peel birch bark off of a tree. It does, however, shed it naturally, so you can find it on the ground. In the wintertime, it's a bit of a challenge because of the snow, but if you find some dead birch trees and you know they're dead because they're actually lying on the ground, feel free to take any dead birch bark off. So what you have to do is kind of peel it into strips, because birch bark is a lot like paper and it works better if you peel it into strips, okay? The next thing you're going to need is something to actually light your fire. So if you have a match, that would be great. Lighters work really well. There are more creative ways to light fires, but we're going to keep it pretty simple. And I would use a box of matches. I love these matches. They are strike anywhere matches. And if you notice, it has a caution on it. It says keep away from children. And that's because matches are obviously not a toy. For you to sit in your backyard and just light matches for fun, or sit in the middle of your house and light matches for fun, that would be extremely dangerous. You don't do that. But in the purpose of lighting a fire, you need to have matches, okay, in a safe environment. I like to start off by rolling my birch bark into a ball. That way it's not flat, but it has some shape right from the beginning, because fire needs oxygen and space to burn properly. Then I'll take my tinder and my kindling and carefully lean one up against the other, creating somewhat of a triangular shaped structure. Then I like to do a different style of fire called the log cabin. You take 2 pieces of wood and place them at the base, 2 more pieces, but go the opposite direction this time, and keep following that pattern, moving in closer and closer to your triangular shaped structure. I just want to give you a few pointers on how to light a match successfully. Now these are wooden matches, and you want to hold them firmly in your hand, and there is a bit of a rough striking patch right there that you want to use, okay? So hold it firmly. Make sure you strike away from you and not towards yourself, just for safety reasons. So it kind of looks like this. A little bit of pressure, and then strike. Now notice how the flame on the match always burns upwards. So if you hold it like this for too long, you will burn your fingers. So you don't want to do that. You want to hold it like this, and that flame will go all the way to the end, and you'll never burn your fingers. If you hold it like this, especially when you're outside, the wind will probably blow it out pretty quickly, because wind is definitely an enemy to a match. Here we go. When lighting it, you want to hold the match underneath the birch bark so that the flame of the match is what catches it on fire, and be careful not to snuff it out. Now would be a good time to roast some hot dogs or marshmallows, and if you don't keep adding wood to your fire, it will eventually burn out. It's a beautiful winter day. Don't forget to get outside and enjoy nature.